Hey, it's Luke Maslin here, founder of Total Performance Living and creator of the Better Man Blueprint. And today I'm joined by Daniel Spitty to have a chat about his experience working together in the Peak Performer one-on-one coaching program together. Dan, how are you, man?
Very well, thank you, mate. Very well.
Good to see you. Well, I suppose first thing, tell us a little bit about yourself and your situation at the moment. Who is Dan Spitty?
It's a very deep question to start with, mate. I'm not sure I'm prepared to answer it. I'm 36 years old, based here in Melbourne, currently sitting in our office. So I run a company called Everperform. We're a software company, and we're all around performance measurement. So, data improving, improving performance, not just in work life, but in all aspects of my life, is something that's sort of near and dear to me. I'm a husband, father of 3 young kids. So we've got Rafi, Cleo, and Gordy, who was born through COVID last year. And it was one of the reasons and the catalyst for me connecting in with you, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later on. But in a nutshell, that's me. Spend that time on the trainer. So I feel like I was spending a lot of time exercising, but probably wasn't sure whether that was actually yielding any real gain for me in terms of the things that I really wanted more of, which was energy, strength, sort of both physically and mentally, and engagement with people. So I think when I look back at that time, I felt like my health was good without being great. And one of the reasons why, I remember the early conversations I had with you, one of the things that I really wanted to challenge was my belief system around the things that I thought were good for me, that maybe some of them were good for me, but through working with you, it certainly changed my view around what actually is good for me, which in some cases is really counterintuitive, like spending less time exercising but feeling better. That to me just didn't make any sense back then, but I sort of know that now. So in introducing me into the right things there. But relationship wise, I think the catalyst for me was I could see myself with the birth of Gordy coming up, with having 3 young kids. This was in COVID, so lockdown in Melbourne, working from home, running a small business that was prepping for growth, and really, I suppose the cut through was I just felt like I needed to take responsibility for ensuring that I could be the best person I could be through what was going to be a really challenging time. And I'm really glad that I took that responsibility on. And I'm on reflection, it's one of the best decisions that I made. I think I've always backed myself in to be a fast learner, and self-driven, and I probably confuse that with asking for help, and there is a difference, and I realize that now, and I just got to a point. That was really what held me back. Probably was taking that step. There's a lot of fear involved, I think, in it. Fear of being judged, fear of maybe uncovering things that you might be uncomfortable with yourself. As part of that, you do need to be comfortable in standing up for what you believe in, and continuing to do things differently. I really like what you said around, if you're seeking high performance and you're not getting judged by what you're doing, then you're not actually performing at a high level, because it's what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And I think that was really a good way of sort of framing up what I was fearful of beforehand, whereas now I'm certainly not. I felt I was living in a cycle which would be do what I felt was best for me, put myself in a position to perform well, perform well and get that kick, and then reward myself, and then guilt for a couple of days, prep myself back up again and do it again. And, you know, I'm a big believer in the harder that you work and the smarter that you work, the fulfillment that you get from that is far greater than say, you know, for something handed to you on a platter. So yeah, I think that was the rut or the cycle that I felt myself, and I was probably looking outside of myself as to why that was the case. You know, whether it be I was, you know, a subject of the environment that, you know, with COVID, or it was something that someone else had done, or it was because I had two kids and a pregnant wife at that stage, and it was just because of that circumstance that I was, you know, tired or not getting enough sleep, and that's why I was tired or didn't have energy, or so that was sort of the situation that I was in beforehand. And you know, 6 months down the track, I still feel I have those moments, but I feel like I've got more now to lean on at those times of awareness, that I do feel like I'm getting into that cycle again, that I can sort of use to my advantage to quickly, well, one, quickly come out of it, but two, don't be too hard on yourself that you're in that situation, and you know, don't dwell on it too much. Off a knee injury from about 3 years before, I decided to go back to gymnastics after 20 years, and ruptured my patellar tendon in the first hour. So that certainly wasn't planned, and it's sort of has always been something that has, you know, I think about it every day. It affects me every day, whether I'm leaning over or kneeling on that knee, or going upstairs or downstairs. So there was that, and I just felt like I was the composition of my body was far different to what I wanted it to be. You know, I certainly wasn't, I wouldn't say that I was fat or overweight, but yeah, I knew that I could be stronger, and feel stronger, and just sort of have that more energy, more spark and spring in my step than what I did, or what I had at that time. And that was something that I was really keen to change. And, you know, I'm talking about, you know, back to when I was 20 years old, when I felt like I was sort of in the prime of how I was when I was physically fit, playing footy, you know, young, much more sort of natural, raw energy, and a lot more wild back then than what I'm sort of willing to be now. But that was something that I was really, I didn't want to feel like I couldn't get back to that. And I wanted to sort of challenge myself and lay down, yeah, just release everything that was telling me that I couldn't get back to that, and just sort of go after it and see whether I could. And, you know, so far I'm far closer now than what I was 6 months ago. Communication is something that, not that I struggled with, but certainly around tapping into, now what I know is, you know, how I am actually feeling, and being able to describe that to myself, but then actually able to share that with others. And again, it probably comes back to that fear around asking for help, and, you know, being a leader of a business, the leader or a leader in my family, and you know, not just my immediate family, but also with my parents and my three younger sisters and their families as well. I suppose there's a natural inclination for me with that, you know, I do have to show the way, and if you feel like you have to show the way, then you know, sometimes, well, most of the time in that situation, you feel like you can't actually show any weakness or show any vulnerabilities or rawness. So I think, you know, overcoming that, and it's still a work in progress, but understanding that that's perfectly okay. It actually naturally draws people in rather than pushing them away. Is again, probably, you know, not physically, but probably more to that engagement piece, and really sort of simplifying what's really going on within, how you're feeling, and also what's going on in your mind, and what's actually true, and what are you worrying about that you've just made up in your own mind and is not going to happen. The other thing that I remember back before we engaged back at that time was that I was a real data and measurement junkie, in that, like, I wanted to know everything from my Garmin. I mean, it's the nature of our business. We measure human performance, so it's something that's very close to my heart. But I think that, it's still very close to my heart, but it's sort of now a combination and a balance of both that measurement, but also more of the subjective and the emotional, and sort of, without getting too spiritual about it, the spiritual components of just letting it be, and not trying to analyze the hell out of every single thing that it's happening to you.
Mm-hmm.
I think like fear of not being able to see it through. It's just as much around fear of sort of discovering what you're doing, what you should continue to do, what you should stop doing, what you should accelerate doing, and being able to sustain that over a long period of time. We've all got distractions in life. We all have distractions in life, whether they're big, small, or indifferent, and just being able to stay true and stay on course for that for a long enough period of time that, some of the results and some of the goals that I had entering into it would actually be achieved. I think, that's probably the other big fear that I had, that I wouldn't be able to see it through till I could see, feel, and share the differences that I've been able to experience.
Resources and having her support to do that.
That was definitely a consideration, and probably the one that sort of undernarred in really deliberating on whether I should go ahead with this or not, like how I was going to articulate that to Sarah. And full transparency, this hasn't been sort of as she would call it, the first fad that I've tried. Like, fast rewind back to January of last year. I was eating vegan for a month, and I was drinking non-alcoholic beers and seeing how that worked, and I certainly wasn't doing that in May.
You never told me this, mate.
So I think she probably entered into this thinking, this is another fad, and we'll be back to sort of normal, or Daniel will come back to normal in a few months once this is passed. And I think probably at that 3-month mark, she probably realised that this was less of a fad and more of something that was going to be more of a way of life for me. And encouragingly, she's certainly supported me through it, although giving me a hard time as well. But that's the nature of our relationship, and the nature of who she is, and that's why I married her, or one of the reasons I did. So it was definitely a consideration. But I think the way that I would answer it, sort of the top three, maybe the top three surprising things that if I look back in hindsight and someone said to me at the start of this is what it involves, or this is what you're going to do, or this is what you're going to experience, or this is where you should focus, I would have said, yeah, great, but no thanks. So I'd say the first thing would be the breath work, the components, and how important breathing is, and how simple to help change your state in a really short period of time. So I'd say that's probably the most important thing that I've learned in the last 6 months, that I use now regularly. I've used it twice today already. The piece that just this discipline around not being too hard on yourself, and not doing everything that you should have done today, but not using that as an excuse as to why you shouldn't do it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So keep coming back to the discipline of doing it, rather than the knowledge of what you should do versus just doing it. So I used to be, for an example, I used to be a person that if they didn't have an hour, or if I didn't have an hour free in a day, then I wouldn't use that as an opportunity to exercise, even if it was like, oh, I don't have a full hour, I've only got half an hour. It's like, okay, well, what can I do in half an hour? It's like, oh, well, I don't have an hour, so I won't go for a run or go for a ride or do a workout. So I think it's just more about just doing the right things. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just continue to execute at a micro level.
Yeah. So maybe what I'm hearing there is learning how to fit what you need into your life and the requirement, like the parameters of what you've got available.
Yeah, exactly. Like, take the kids to the playground, and it goes to the fear of judgment. But if you're there pushing Rafi if I'm there pushing Rafi on a swing and doing push-ups in between, that's okay. Like, take the opportunity to, and it's not all the time, but don't use sort of history and perception and judgment as an excuses to not do the things that you know are best for you. That way, because I don't want to enter into that moment feeling that way. So I think, yeah, definitely. And whether that's identifying that and then doing something about it. So whether it's, communicating, or whether it's breathing, or whether it's stretching, or going for a walk, and just changing what the body or the mind is doing to change the state, rather than feeling like you've got to sit in it and you're just a victim of it for as long as it lasts. Like, you've actually got control to be able to change it.
Yeah.
Now, that's not in every situation, but from my experience over the last 6 months, I've certainly leaned on that a whole lot more. And what that's enabled me to do is listen better. It's enabled me to, observe not just words coming out of people's mouths, but actually their body language and the tone that they're using, and how they're expressing themselves, which might give you cues around, things that I was probably too shallow-minded to notice before. I'm having, and Sarah would agree, we're having much more open and just deeper conversations now about things like, how each other is feeling, or observing others, being more appreciative, noticing what the kids are doing, and what they're, what Sarah's observing with what Cleo or Gordy did today, and me listening and sort of feeling that, rather than just saying, oh, great, this is what happened to me today. It's really changed. Not every conversation we have, I'm not vouching that every conversation is deep and meaningful, although my sisters would probably say that that's closer to the truth. But it's different conversations that I feel like I'm now having, because I got more energy because of the things that we've been doing together. So it's all related. I suppose is the cut through the waffle. It's all interrelated, and it's amazing sort of feeling that in the work that we've been doing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Definitely physically, I feel stronger. The composition of what we've been doing together, and the type of exercise that I'm now doing based on the goals that I had is very different to what I was doing before, and I've really enjoyed it. Like, I've enjoyed doing different things, and seeing, whether it's feeling that I'm stronger, and it might be just something as simple as, picking up the kids with one hand was probably far more difficult, or was far more difficult for me to do back before we started than it is now. So just those little things you notice on a daily basis, and it sort of, fills you with more confidence. Like, my body composition now is different as well. You can comment on the specifics of it, but just feeling like I've got more. I'm filled, rather than feeling like I've got this body that I'm sort of just not filling into. Mm-hmm. And from a day-to-day perspective, that makes me feel good, and to a point where it's nice to hear that other people notice as well. But that's not the reason that I'm doing it. and how actually fundamentally simple life can be.
Yeah.
And that's probably more through combination of the mindfulness, the reading that I've been doing as well, and then sort of mapping that back to, purpose, and really thinking hard about defining what what I want out of life and what I can actually breathe life into others, which is a big element of what I want to achieve. So again, long way to answer your question, but I think self-confidence from everything that I'm doing personally really exudes itself on the business, particularly being a small team. Even in the way words are delivered, or as I was talking about before, listening to my team members in different ways rather than just hearing the words that are coming out of their mouth, but also the way that it's being delivered. And obviously it's been difficult because we've been in remote working situations, but just having real conversations with them rather than just about what the work that they're doing is. So that's certainly given, whether it's from a customer's perspective, whether it's from the internal team's perspective, whether it's from prospective customers of ours as we continue to grow, or whether it's from our investors or our advisors. I think that, even the feedback from them has been that there's certainly a greater level of confidence, and they can notice a shift. I know I've got more confidence that I know where I'm heading and if we're leading the business to head in that direction. And that makes it far easier to, give them confidence that they should join and follow for the ride, but also that, it's actually it's going to happen, rather than, Daniel said this before, but, he said it with a low tone, and I didn't really believe him because he was too tired to even notice that I was there.
Yeah.
So, it's that, that projection. The higher energy means that you can have a high level engagement, and that's, people notice that, and have noticed that. So that's not to say that it stops here either. It's just something that I feel like I'm just going to continue to do what I need to do in order to put myself in the best position that I can continue to grow that out. I could vouch for, even giving examples of conversations that I've had with both of them earlier on today, but I think the big one with that is being able to, it comes back to maybe some of the fears that I had going into the program with you around, asking for help, feeling like, if I didn't have the answer, then that was a bad thing and I should. But also being able to actually describe, how I was feeling and just share that with them, and ask for them to share the same back with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then just, talk through that rather than, maybe shielding myself from being that vulnerable. So I think it could certainly open up conversations, and similar to the way that I described how it's opened up conversations with Sarah, I feel the same way with Dad and Wade, in that sense that our conversations are at a deeper level and a more open level, and talking about the things that maybe we were a bit shielded to talk about before. And that just deepens the trust and the confidence that we've got in one another around, what we do next, or what we need to do better, or what's working well, or how to work together. So, I'd say that in a nutshell, it's just opened it and deepened it, and I feel like it's in the right, or on the right trajectory. That's been one of the key catalysts for me doing this. There's no doubt about that. But I think just something really, really simple around, sometimes I felt like I was too busy to really just enjoy watching them. So there would be whether it be after work or on a weekend or any time, it didn't matter. I would be watching, say, Rafi and Cleo play in the sand at the beach. But really what I was doing is my eyes were watching them, but I was thinking about, okay, well, what's the next jump that I can make in terms of this from a work perspective, or where's our next holiday going to be, or what have I forgotten to do that I was supposed to do yesterday that I've got to now do today? Mm-hmm. Whereas I really, was recently holidays and we were lucky enough to be down at the beach, and I can remember just being there and watching my 3 kids and my wife on the beach and just stopping and just saying nothing to myself and not thinking about anything, but just enjoying that for what it was. It's almost like a mental picture without taking it on your iPhone. That is just as powerful. And I remember that because I was just fully engaged with that moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm having far more of them with particularly my kids, but it's not limited to them. So, that might sound a little bit, emotional or whatever, but
that's what life's about.
I bring it back to that. I bring it back to the simplicity, and that's really important. And I was probably caught up in being too busy to notice those types of things. So they were happening right in front of me, but I wasn't actually really listening, watching, enjoying it. Men in their 30s that know, that I suppose have a desire to be different, but just probably maybe don't know or don't trust themselves to find the answers to get there. Mm-hmm. I think, one of the myths that you dispelled to me very early on was that, and we talked about it before around, not having enough time to do this. I don't think that's, if you're coming into this saying I'm time poor, that is actually the reason to do it, not the reason not to do it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that if you're entering in, for me, I was entering into a phase of my life that I knew that I needed to do something different in order to just sustain the existing energy level that I had, let alone boost it. So I think that if you're fearing any event or phase of your life like that, whether it's going into a new job or starting a family, or getting married, or moving to a new environment, any significant change in your life, or one that you go, I need to change something in my life, then that would be definitely the criteria or the characteristics of someone that I think would really benefit from this. Yeah, well, I can talk to the way that I justify it. In that, for every dollar and hour that I'm spending on improving myself, I know that the payback of that, whether it be monetary through business or not, but I know that the almost like the immeasurable benefits from it are going to be far outweighing any time and any dollar that I put in investing in myself. I haven't invested in myself for the last, if probably since uni, around paying for that sort of learning and education phase of my life. Beyond that, I can't really remember the last time that I've said, I'm going to spend this money or this time in really making a step change for me. And I wish I did it a hell of a lot earlier. But that being said, I was at a different phase of my life as well. So I think if you're trying to create your own business case for why you should do it, or how, like me, how I would justify it to my wife or to my mates that might be going, what the hell is Spitty doing? He's got a coach now. Why is he doing that? I thought he was fine. It's for every dollar that you put in and for every hour you put in, there's going to be a multiple in terms of benefit that you're going to get back. It might not be immediate, but even in the 6 months that we've been working together, as I said, the feedback from the business is we're in a far better position now than what we were 6 months ago. My relationship's in a far better position than it was 6 months ago. I'm in a far better position than I was 6 months ago, whether it be health-wise, physically, mentally. All of the goals that I had set for this and to why I wanted to do it, which was around energy, strength, and engagement, are all better than what they were beforehand. And I sort of asked the question, well, what's that worth? And that's worth far more. Not that you've got to put your prices up, Luke, but that's worth far more than what I've spent.
I think that's really great insight and really good feedback.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing is, you're not here on Earth for a long time, so we don't have anything when we're born, and we don't have anything left when we die. So make the most of it when you're here, and make the most of yourself. And I know people that would spend a hell of a lot of money doing damage to themselves and enjoying it rather than improving themselves and enjoying it. And I was one of those people. So it's just a different mindset.
Yeah.
Hopefully that can be useful for someone that's going, okay, well, I never really thought about it that way, but I mean, that's the way it worked for me. But, lastly, thank you. You've had a great impact on my life, and you've been able to really help me with everything that I've just said. So mate, thank you. And I know that a lot of people around me are also thankful. So
that's great to hear.
You should be proud too.
Thanks, mate. And we're only just getting started. We've got a long way to go. We're not a long way to go. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
Awesome, mate. Well, thanks for that, Dan. So look, if you are a guy out there watching this and maybe some of what Dan shared has resonated with you, it's got you thinking that, coaching could be something that you want to explore and see how it could help you in your own life, what I invite you to do is schedule a free complimentary Total Performance Pit Stop Clarity call with me now. It's an opportunity to do three things: get clear on the vision that you want for your health and life in the next 12 months and beyond, identify what the roadblocks and challenges are and what's the actual root cause of those things, and create a bit of a roadmap and plan in terms of getting you from where you are now to where you want to be. It's a free opportunity. There's nothing to sell you on that call. The reason why I do it is because I know, as Dan mentioned in this call, that for a lot of men, myself included, when I've gone to invest in things, often there's concern around taking that first step and reaching out and asking for help. So in offering this opportunity to connect and get clarity for you, I know that some of you will want to take that further, just as Dan did in a coaching relationship. But if you don't, that's cool as well. You'll still get a hell of a lot of value from the call in terms of clarity, identification, and a roadmap for where you could go in the future and how you could get there. So if you're watching this and that's something that you want to explore, what you need to do is hit the link that's below this video, or send me a message directly on the platform where you're watching this on social media, or email luke@totalperformanceliving.com. We can organise a time that works for you. And as I said, get clear on where you want to go, how you're going to get there, and what the roadmap looks like. So look forward to speaking with you soon. This is Luke Maslin again, and I'll chat with you soon.